Woe to you, spirits of the air. By thy sword comes your despair. As I march into your lair, you'll know my name as the Demon Slayer.
Welcome back to Chit Chat Movies with Matt Ketchum,
Hello. And with Jeremy Hames.
the Demon Slayer. And today we are talking about, the one, the only, Doctor Strange.
Yeah, this was, like we were talking before we started, this is an interesting topic today because I don't know your thoughts. You don't know my thoughts. We didn't get to see this movie together this time, so a lot of this is just going to be some on-the-fly stuff. I'll probably kind of more divulge to you a little bit more today. I think you're a little bit more knowledgeable about this particular character than I am. But the movie, it's I'll just kind of out of the gate say it is certainly not like any other Marvel movie we've ever seen.
No, not at all. It is not. And so, first things first, I've got to say this. I kind of told you in text wise about this. I had a very interesting experience with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So we were supposed to see it at the same time.
Yep.
And I had to work late, so wasn't able to join you. So I decided I was going to catch the later show.
Okay.
And so I went into the later show, and it was actually pretty packed in there. I didn't realize they had the 9:30 show, and I was walking in like right at 9:30.
Right.
And I guess apparently everyone decided it's like at last minute they wanted to see.
Yeah.
Because I have never waited that long in line, that late before. I mean, it was packed. I was waiting at the door. And then that's when I remembered I saw that everyone was doing 9:30. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm doing 9:45, so I'm still good.
Right.
So I went up there, and everyone else has been getting tickets and stuff, and I finally went up there, and they asked me what I wanted, and I said the 9:45 Doctor Strange. She's like, okay. And she leaned over the counter, grabbed something, and threw it up, and it was a package of glasses. And I had no clue what these were. I thought, because it's like a bluish bag.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like a bag of Skittles. And I was like, I'm trying to think in my mind. I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, how did you get Skittles out of Doctor Strange? And I had no clue. I was trying to figure it out and stuff. And then she asked anything else I wanted. And I'm like, and I finally read what it said. It said real 3D. I'm like, I'm watching a 3D movie, and she's like, anything else? I'm like, yeah. Can I get a drink? I was so dumbfounded. I had nothing to say in that moment.
Yeah.
I was trying to wrap my head. I'm like, I'm watching a 3D movie. I didn't know that. And so I'm like, and of course, this being said, I've never seen a 3D movie.
Yeah.
And stuff. So I'm going through there, and I'm going inside, and I've got these, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. I'm like, because I remember when we saw the first original Doctor Strange, I remember we had the same conversation that this would be awesome in 3D.
Right.
Because of all the special effects and everything, I was like, this would be awesome. And now I'm seeing Doctor Strange 2 in 3D. The problem, though, is I spent the first 30 minutes trying to get adjusted to these glasses. I could not focus. I was like out of it. I'm like, oh, and I'm taking off the glasses. I'm trying to look at it, and it looks like it's in like 720.
Yeah.
It's really just fuzzy and blurry. And I'm like, I'm definitely not watching it like this. I'm like, I'm going to try. I kept watching it. And finally, eventually, kind of started getting. There were still parts throughout it that jarred me. I was like, I don't like this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I said, I told you, I was like, I might go watch it again. I never did, though. Mainly because I guess pretty much most of the movie was already leaked online on YouTube.
Pretty much. Yeah. And we knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. I feel like this one was worse than most of the ones in the past, though. This one, I mean, I can't go on YouTube without seeing any kind of this scene and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was, I'm glad we saw it when we did, and everything. But for me, it wasn't that bad. It was not that bad of a movie, because I know we were kind of talking about all the reviews coming into it.
For sure.
We were looking, it was like, wow, this isn't looking great. And of course, given the fact that Kevin Feige had even said going into it, and I told you about it,
Yep.
that he said that he doesn't expect this to be a very profitable movie in theater-wise, box office. He's not expecting everyone to flock to it. Not in the same route as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting comment. And of course, I guess I've already seen that sales have been dropping.
It did fairly well, though.
It did do very well.
I think one of my issues with this movie, there were tons of rumored cameos, and we got and the ones we got were good.
Yes.
I feel like they were the expected ones, but this was hyped up to be, look, it's the multiverse. You never know what's going to happen. And that was one of my big disappointments was, some of the things that we were supposedly going to get and have since they have come out and said, yeah, we were going to do that, but we wanted to stick to the story. I thought that was a problem for me. And then the other side of it was, I think sales would have done better had they kind of been a little bit more intentional with who the villain was going to be.
That was an interesting thing. And of course, I mean, I'm going to have to just kind of go into this one spoiler-wise.
Yeah, and I think at this point, for the people who have been on TikTok and have been on YouTube,
everyone pretty much has found out, because it's leaked and been talked everywhere, that Wanda was the villain.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, going into the movie, you did not have any kind of idea who was going to be the villain. They never referenced it, really. I mean, you saw pieces that you could kind of put it together of who the villain was going to be. Mm-hmm. And of course, I don't know. And of course, one of my biggest things, so going back, this is a Sam Raimi film.
Yes.
And when he was announced, he is a very top tier horror.
Yep.
Director. So I was excited for that. I'm like, okay, we're going to get something that in a Marvel movie we have never seen. We're going to get more of a horror-esque, and even going as far as they were talking about that this is going to be a horror-style film. You're going to have, not horror as in gore and scary and things like that, but you're going to have, but you're going to have the feel.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a slasher film or anything like that, but you're going to have the feel of almost like a thriller.
Yeah.
Style. And of course, seeing the first trailer at the end of Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. That was I looked at it, I was like, that looks very much Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
Wise. But I was hoping to get my villain I wanted to see is my favorite villain from Doctor Strange, and that's Nightmare. Mm-hmm. And they teased it in one of their final teasers of the movie, the week of. They teased it with Wanda stating about thing, and she mentions it's like every morning the same nightmare.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, I was like, is this going to be a tease and who we're going to at least see? I didn't know if it was going to be the main villain, but I was hoping to get, with the horror-wise, with the nightmare world, that would have been a awesome to kind of fill everything in.
Right.
Because, I mean, it would be the dark dimension and the Mirrorverse, but just completely flipped on its head.
Yeah, exactly.
Of jump scares left and right, because everything's done within the mind. So that's what I was hoping for. That being said, Wanda was a very good villain.
Wanda is the movie for me.
Yes.
Absolutely. That is my girl. And they finally portrayed her as,
The Scarlet Witch.
The badass that we kind of expected from the time that you see her in Avengers 2 to all the way up to now. I do think I expected her to be the villain. I didn't think the pacing of the movie, I certainly didn't think it was going to be as fast as it was.
No.
But given the post-credits to WandaVision, and, we see her with the Darkhold, then I did kind of expect it. But certainly not within the first 10 minutes did I think, we're going to be out of the gate. That is... the pacing of the movie is just insane to me. It establishes basically their entire plot very early.
Yes.
I didn't hate it, but at the same time, it was hard for me to keep up in some ways.
They had a lot of things going
Mm-hmm.
that it needed to start early
Yeah.
in order to be able to, in a sense, flesh everything out.
Yeah.
Pacing, in a sense, yeah. And of course, very interesting way of ever throwing in a new character.
Yeah.
I mean, we start out the first scene with her, with America Chavez in it. So that was a very interesting thing. And I mean, at that point, it's no introduction whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
She's part of it. You're in it with Defender Strange.
Yep.
And stuff. And there's no even introduction of who Defender Strange is or how he is different from ours. There's nothing really set there. I mean, you're thrown right into the action.
Mm-hmm.
It would be almost like if you're looking back to Guardians 2.
Yeah.
Where they're in the middle of the fight. The only problem is that fight didn't really escalate to anything. That was a one-off fight, basically. Whereas this set up for the entire movie. This is the first beginning plot of the entire movie that's about to come.
Yeah. I thought it was really good to see Raimi back. And it just makes me question, because there are legitimate jump scares in this movie.
I heard the audience, and of course I was already kind of guessing where they would be at and stuff like that. And yeah, some of the audience for my showing was caught unaware by them.
There are certain moments where there is some major fourth wall breaking. For example, this isn't a super big spoiler, but there's a scene where Wanda just looks at the camera directly, and she just stares at it for 3-4 seconds. I mean, that's spooky, because like, she's looking at you and she's basically telling you, like, get ready, because we're about to get crazy in this movie. But I just instantly, I'm watching this movie and I couldn't help but think, man, why didn't we get Tobey's Spider-Man 4 with Carnage, with Raimi directing it? Why didn't we get that?
Yeah.
But back to this other movie. That's another conversation for another day. I agree. Overall, it was a good movie. It wasn't my favorite Marvel movie. I think IGN probably nailed it with a 7.5. That's probably about what I would do. It did certain things very, very well. There were certain things, and maybe it's just because I'm not as attached to Strange as a personal favorite character. But in terms of, like, taking risk in this movie, it did so good. We go back to the horror aspect. We see things done in this movie that to characters you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
Wanda truly, I mean, yes, Thanos was evil, and we understand that with the snap, but at the same time, could you not somewhat understand why he did it? You kind of got it. Same thing with Killmonger from Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of understood. Wanda, that was the first probably Marvel movie where I legitimately felt like that is evil.
Yeah.
That is, like, evil in its truest form. And like I said, the highlight to me is the full ascension into the Scarlet Witch persona, and all the good things that come with that. But at the same time, it's not just her. There are huge advances for Doctor Strange's character as well. Things that are going to set up for other movies with him. His relationship with Christine, and how there's closure to that. It was just it was a good movie overall. Am I getting a phone call?
Yes.
I seem that I am. It'll be okay.
I thought it was my phone. I was trying to find out. I'm like, I hear it, and I feel it. I was like, what is it?
But yeah, it is a good movie. I'm definitely gonna have to rewatch it. I can't imagine watching it in 3D like you did.
My God, it was so.
I'm just gonna grab that real quick.
That's fine. Go ahead.
No, keep going.
It was so jarring to see, and of course, yeah, some of the special effects are tremendous in this movie. So, do you need a?
I'm good.
The set's not, but
I'm not good.
it's fine. Just leave it. I'll fix it later.
No, it's I had texted Rachel earlier when it just randomly started hailing in Russellville, and she was making sure I was good. But continuing on, back to you. What was you saying?
It's the and see, I had seen people talking about one of the things in this movie that they didn't quite like was some of the CGI and things like that. And of course, being in 3D, I couldn't even tell.
Yeah.
It because everything is really thrown out of proportion from the way that you're used to looking at things.
Mm-hmm.
It is really difficult. So I pretty much had to just kind of sit there and try to enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't able to even get into a whole lot of like the physical things that I usually look for, like the CGI and stuff like that, because a lot of it was hard to try to focus on. So I pretty much at that point I had to sit back and I'm like, okay, let me just enjoy this as the movie it is. When I pick onto things, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't, I'll try to find it in later reviews and stuff like that.
Right.
But no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very good movie. It's up there for me. I enjoyed the tone of it. It was something very different than we've ever seen.
Yeah.
It did not feel like a Marvel movie whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in that whole entire aspect, I was really happy with Sam Raimi coming back, of getting more into the horror-esque wise of it for the tone, because he did that in Spider-Man 2 with the Dr. Octopus in the surgery room.
Yeah.
You got that horror type. I was really happy to see that in the whole entire movie, because now if you're talking about like that with Spider-Man 4, what could have we saw if he was given the option to do that?
Yeah.
That being said, I thought the tone for this, I enjoyed it. My biggest thing that really set this movie off for me, for the highest that I can pretty much give it, is one thing. Because I've never been able to see any other Marvel movie that's done it. And it's one reason why I don't like Marvel movies and the MCU movies in a sense. Okay. And that's because of the music. For me, I was so excited to see Danny Elfman doing the score for this. I am a very big, all my favorite movies have great scores to them.
Right.
I associate, and I have a playlist of orchestra music that is orchestra-wise that I like, but also film scores.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because that is one of my most played, because when I'm doing anything that I'm just trying to concentrate on, I just like to have the music in the background. I do a lot of scores. And so I was happy to see that. And in the past MCU movies, they don't really utilize music the best.
No, and I understand what you're saying. You're talking like iconic ones too, like Star Wars, Jurassic Park.
I'm talking because for me, a musical score should be something that is like a tour guide for the movie.
Yeah,
it should lead you. It should build up the suspense. It should make you happy, excited for what's coming. It should make you sad. It's basically a tour guide for everything that's going on screen.
To me, I don't even really remember a specific moment in the Marvelverse where I felt that way with a score, other than maybe the first time in Avengers when they all come together.
So you have, that is like the most iconic thing, is the original Avengers theme with the roundabout, and that's a very one. And of course, there are other Marvel movies that's out there that have really good, there's good musical scores. Mm-hmm. The Captain America theme is a very good one.
Yeah.
But the problem is they don't utilize it to the fullest. It's pretty much is almost like an afterthought, or that the theme or the music is just like a standard fanfare or a standard march. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make it stand out. So I always hated that, and I was like, I want good music to go behind it. It's a good story. They're good movies and everything else like that. I just want good music to go with it.
Yeah.
And I had seen early reviews, people talking about the music in this is really good. Danny Elfman had brought it and stuff, and I had vaguely heard them. I didn't want to listen to too much of it because the album dropped a couple days before.
Yeah.
And I kind of listened through parts of it. I'm like, okay, this sounds good. I'm like, let's see how well it goes in there. And yes, we can talk about the musical section that a lot of people have talked about of the almost physical musical battle between Strange. But one of my favorite was when Wanda entered the Mirrorverse.
Yeah.
That it was just
good.
like the slow ticking of the clock, and you see her just kind of spinning. It's just like a very eerie tone. It brought you in that thing, and every time that she did something, the music would change. And that, for me, that was a iconic musical scene set to something. And I was so happy for the music for this movie. I felt like they brought the music to the forefront that it should have been. So I was really happy to see that, and that is one of my major things I have to say. This movie did well.
Yeah, I think it just goes in hand with the tone that they're trying to set for the movie. You know, it generally scores are much more important in a horror-esque film because you're, like you said, you're waiting for the suspense build up, you're waiting for the tenseness of the moment, you know. And I agree. I think they did that very well. I hadn't quite thought about it in that aspect like you described, but you are right. You know, when there was something about to happen, you could feel the music, you could feel the vibrations in the auditorium.
It changes the whole entire atmosphere.
Exactly.
You're experiencing it more. Instead of just watching something, you're feeling it. And I thought my phone was on silent. Apparently not.
We're just having all kinds of phone stuff today.
The multiverse, right?
It's the multiverse. I must be getting a call in a different dimension.
That being said, I got one thing I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
They brought in a very interesting aspect early on in the movie, and that was about dreams
Yes.
being other multiverses. What do you think about that?
I think it's interesting. You know, our hardcore Marvel fans going, is that more fuel for them to try to, you know, theorize things? Sure, you know, because I've already seen one from Infinity War when Tony's talking to Pepper and he's like, hey, I had this dream last night, like we were having a baby, blah blah blah. You know, everyone's like, okay, well, because of this in this movie, you know, other Tony must have got his ending, you know, etc. But I think it's an interesting thought, and it's even one that I think you can tie to the real world aspect. You know, like how many times do we have a dream and then, you know, a couple months down the road you do something and you're like, whoa, that was deja vu, you know?
Yeah.
And I appreciated it. I don't think it meant to have the impact that it did. I think that's just one of those random moments that Marvel knocks out of the park. But I thought it explained a lot of things well for him that it should have, and you know, it's certainly an interesting thing to discuss and to dive into, because it's just when you get into the idea of a dream, just in general, like there's zero impossibilities, you know. And so and on the same hand, they could have been doing that to set up something for the future that they're going to revisit this, you know, who knows. But I don't know, what are your thoughts on it?
It was a very interesting, it really stuck with me when that line came over and stuff like that. It really stuck with me. I was listening, I was like, it's an interesting thought to have. And I was trying to think back of when they have had said in the past about different like dreams and stuff, and there's not really a whole lot that's been said in the MCU. Because yes, I have seen the things of everyone talking about is like, oh, is this what it's going to mean, and things like that. And I agree. I think it was more of a kind of just a throwaway line, or something that they're going to try to set up in the future, but not something that's ties everything that we've already had in the past,
right,
it's not going to come full circle. I don't feel like. I feel like this was like a starting point that they had to kind of go start somewhere, and this just seemed to be the best way.
Yeah, and that's a really, really good point. I think, and me and you briefly discussed this earlier, with Doctor Strange 2 and with Spider-Man No Way Home, and then we have Thor 4 coming. This very, very much feels like the start of a new Marvel's, storyline. They've basically wrapped up with the original 6. I know we still have a couple characters out there. Thor's got his movie coming out. But the one thing that I was kind of thinking to myself as I was watching Doctor Strange 2 is, we're heading into a different world of Marvel now as we're diving into more characters of that maybe aren't necessarily as well known, which Doctor Strange is huge, and I do foresee him sticking around for a while. But what is I'm going to be very interested to see how Marvel does without Robert Downey Jr., without Chris Hemsworth, without Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, etc., as we kind of move into the next 10 years, and one of the things that they nailed for sure, and I'm getting a little off topic here, but the spinoffs and things we're talking about in Moon Knight, this movie to me kind of made you realize this isn't what we know, and I don't think it will be going forward. Personal opinion: Thor 4 is probably the last chapter that we're gonna get of the old stuff, and everything from here on out. Anytime a movie comes out and it has Avengers in the title, it's always going to do huge. But going forward, as we get these new characters, I'll be very intrigued to see how the MCU holds up.
Yeah. And see, I know I read the comment that I guess Kevin Feige had already said that there will not be another Avengers movie, as in Avengers alone.
Right, yeah.
There's not going to be like an Avengers 5. Avengers 4 was the last Avengers movie. Because, of course, I think what they're setting up, especially with like America Chavez and stuff, is you're going into young Avengers, more of a younger group kind of stuff-wise like that. And, of course, the older generation-wise is going to be starting to kind of phase out. Yeah. Which I think is a good way of making it not stale.
I agree, yeah. They could have easily stopped with Endgame, and it would have absolutely been
no
success.
One would have said anything pretty much.
No, we would have completely understood, and then they could have lived out the rest of their time on Disney Plus, releasing these really good spinoffs, and nobody would have argued, but if they continue to tell the stories the way that they are with the character development, like I said earlier, I did not expect the development that we got in Strange in this movie. Yeah. I didn't. I thought his character was pretty set, arrogant. He's got a lot of Tony Stark in him, but at the same time, he means well, and we get that. He really grows up throughout the course of the movie, and that's just that tells me Marvel is committed to the cast of people that they have, and you're right. Avengers, I hadn't heard Kevin say that, so that's kind of a surprise to me. Maybe we get a Secret Wars somewhere down the line, but
I think I think it's like going to have like the same idea. It's going to be Avengers style movie.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be it's not going to be called Avengers. It's going to be something else.
Revengers. No. But going back to Strange 2, the things that I said this with Sonic, the things that they needed to nail, I thought they did.
They did, yes.
The CGI, while there are a couple times it's a little wonky, the effects are beautiful.
See, the visuals and stuff, and I'm not talking the CGI, I'm talking about everything else, of the camera movement and the way that they're layering shots and stuff like that was fantastic. Yeah. The way you would get the fade in, the fade out of the different visual scenes, layering on top of each other, and they all kind of fade and stuff like that was done perfectly.
Yeah.
It gave a very unique look to something. It wasn't just everything shot in camera.
Yeah. And I did not feel this with every other Marvel actor we've ever had. But again, and I know I just keep singing her praise, but Elizabeth Olsen's performance, because it's very separate. Like, Scarlet Witch is different from Wanda.
Yes.
And you feel it, whether it's her mannerisms, her cadence, how she talks, her body language. I thought it was an all-star performance from her. And, that, like I said, that's my high point in the movie. I thought her portrayal of Scarlet Witch was very, very well done. I had hoped that we would have gotten a Loki sighting in this. Mm-hmm. And there was apparently a rumor very early on that Loki was going to have to help Strange in this movie. Again, that's just another one of those, like, failed cameo thoughts. But overall, and we've not even said this, Wong was very good in this movie,
yes.
too. He had a much bigger impact than I expected, which I guess if you're the Sorcerer Supreme, you should. But overall, fantastic movie. Again, not my favorite, but I mean, I'm not gonna say anything bad about it. Well, I'll rewatch it, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think it was more of what it was trying to accomplish in being its own movie and being and taking the risk that, in my opinion, Marvel needed to take.
So that being said, I think we're gonna have to get into some spoiler details.
I agree. I think we're.
This is spoiler time right now.
Spoiler time.
Spoiler. So the one thing you're talking about, cameos and stuff of who we did get in. Mm-hmm. And of course, I know the one cameo that everyone was talking about that they were expecting to see and stuff. And guess what? We didn't see it.
Yeah.
So I had heard from one of the reviews early before I even saw it. They were saying that if you're expecting the hype, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
And of course, so I had hyped. Yes, there were certain things I kind of wanted. That being said, Tom Cruise's Iron Man was not one of them. I didn't really care.
See, this surprised me. Out of all of them, I thought this was the one we'd for sure get.
And so the worst thing that had been rumored this entire time, mm-hmm. and it was released a couple days ago in an interview that was never even a part of it.
Which blows my mind, because like 6 months ago, I read an early rough draft of the movie where they said Tom Cruise's Iron Man is in the movie, and him and Strange have a conversation, because Strange is like, wait, you're alive in this universe? And he says, yeah, in my universe, you did the snap. And I was expecting that the whole time, and which is a callback, because supposedly there was a rumor that Tom Cruise was initially going to play Iron
Cruise
Man.
That was their original plan, was in
RDJ.
2008. But the whole entire situation, what they were talking about is that he had Raimi had just kind of jokingly threw that out there because he had heard that Cruise was originally in talks to play the role. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey, this would be pretty cool. And they just kind of laughed it off. And he said, knowing full well that we wouldn't be able to do it because he's shooting 2 Mission Impossible movies back to back.
Yeah.
There would never be a scheduling time for him to do it. So he never came to set or anything. So it was pretty much a throwaway comment that pretty much just snowballed into everything that everyone was expecting. And I like Tom Cruise and stuff like that. And I think especially if you're doing like a superior Iron Man,
yep.
I think that they were talking about, I think would have been pretty interesting to see. Mm-hmm. Was that I was that excited for? No, not really.
So the ones, which I guess in hindsight, would he have had a place in the movie? No. But I thought this would have been a great opportunity to introduce Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool in an official Marvel movie. It could have been just a split second, because I personally thought we were going to get some like they're going to have this massive battle, and the multiverse was going to crash. They're going to go through multiple dimensions, and I thought those were when we would see the cameos. We would see, like, they'd be fighting here, and then their clash would cause them to go to another one, and it would just be Ryan sitting on a couch or something. You know, he has some smart comment, and then, like, go on and so forth. I thought that was a good introduction. The one, though, that I kept hearing that I was really surprised about was a Ghost Rider sighting.
I had heard Ghost Rider, and of course, I am a massive fan of Ghost Rider.
You know, so I thought you could have tied Ghost Rider to that
You
story.
could have, especially with the horror style
Yeah.
and stuff like that. That could have been a very well.
So I was personally really disappointed in the cameos. I understood the ones that they did. Well, we're in the spoiler section now,
Yeah.
you know, but I understood why they did the ones they did, and one of them is a fan service. Actually, you could probably say the two big ones are both fan services, but I was really disappointed with them.
So, of course, you had Captain Britain.
Mm-hmm.
So
Who was spoiled before, like in the trailer?
Yeah, that was. The interesting one for me was Black Bolt.
Yeah, that was the one I didn't expect.
That was an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, you had that. Then you had Captain Marvel with what is Maria Rambeau?
Yep.
Character wise, of course, Mordo being Sorcerer Supreme, and then of course Reed Richards,
Played by
John Krasinski.
Yeah, something like that. The guy from The Office.
Yeah.
That's how I know him.
So, and I think he did a fairly all right job. I know everyone's talking of whether or not he's going to become Mr. Fantastic in the Fantastic Four movie.
I don't think he will. I think, again, that when I say fan service, I think that was the fan service.
Because he was basically a fan casting.
Yeah.
Everyone said he would make the perfect one. So.
Yeah. And then, of course, we see Charles Xavier.
Yeah. On his the 1990 animated show, Wheelchair, was a very good one. I enjoyed that.
You know, and even that one was spoiled in a trailer. You know, of course they're all coming together. They're playing the Illuminati, and you know, I liked aspects of that whole scenario. I liked how they showed Strange that, hey, we basically killed you. You know, your version of here, and you know, it was good. You know, I'm not thrilled with the cameos again, but it was cool to see Charles in a Marvel movie. I thought, and forgive me, I cannot remember his name, the actor.
Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart. I thought it was something he deserved to get, you know, to be put in, and because I always work with Sony and Fox, and you know, I understand. And then we're going to get into what happens to said Illuminati.
I was really... So I was hoping that at the end of WandaVision, we were going to get her becoming a villain.
Yeah.
I didn't know if they were ever going to do it, as in what they said in the movie, to try to get her back on the lunchbox, because they've been trying to put her on the lunchbox since 2015?
Yeah.
When she's been introduced. They've been trying to take her from a villain, or somewhat of a villain, into a hero this entire time. I'm like, I can't see them wasting all that to turn into a villain, which I think they should.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really excited. And of course, that massacre scene of the Illuminati, I enjoyed. I loved that scene. I know people talked, it's like they hated the fact that they all got killed.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, this is a multiverse. So they're all still alive in every one of the other universes. And of course, I mean, I was really excited the way that they all died, because they all died by their own hand, basically. Yeah. They're all done by their what do you call it?
Their abilities.
Their ability, except for one, Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel got the short stick of just being crushed by a statue.
Yeah, I didn't agree with that.
I was waiting, because of course, that's the last one. Besides Xavier, that was the last one. And I'm like, okay, cool. I was like, yeah, you get Black Bolt his head imploding from his talking was an interesting one. I was like, oh, wow, okay. And then Mr. Fantastic into graded silly string, basically.
Yeah. One of the things that really made this movie for me were the one-liners that we got from, I mean, not just from Strange, but from Wanda as well. You know, listen, Black Bolt is going to kill you with a single whisper. Don't make us do it. Like, if he opens his mouth, you're dead. And she's just like, what mouth?
Yeah.
That was a crazy scene. And
Yeah.
then, you know, she's talking to Reed, and she's like, do you have children? And he's like, yes. And she's like, is their mother still alive? Yes. Well, at least they'll have one parent. That straight up tells you, like, oh my God.
Yeah, something's about to happen.
Yeah.
We got the full turn into the horror-esque style
Yes.
of taking this character. And I was so happy that it was this style movie that Raimi was the one who did.
Yeah.
Because it lent itself so well to it, of having Wanda basically possessing herself to go into this.
She, and then, you know, the other universes, Christine is trying to get America out, and you see Wanda just walking through the fire and the smoke. She's got Ultron's head,
Yeah.
you know, and just as she's walking by, and it was so good, man. Like, the blood on the face,
Mhm.
walking barefoot, and you're just, it was fully invested in what they were, and again in the horror aspect of it, and it was creepy, you know, and of course then we go into the final fight, which I'll kind of let you get into that some.
Final fight of
the fifth Strange that we're introduced to in this movie, but Scarlet versus
Zombie Strange.
Zombie Defender Strange.
That was a I thought it was interesting when they first started it and they buried Defender Strange.
Yeah.
The way that he's like, yeah, he deserves a tomb or a burial and stuff like that. I was like, okay, that's interesting.
Speaking of which, there's another one-liner there when he's like, you're just going to bury him here? And he's like, trust me, I've buried worse.
Worse, yeah.
I was like, whoa, hey, you know. But
yeah, and then, of course, they asked, it's like, don't you have to have a live clone or what is it? I forgot how she exactly, and she said, who said anything about living or whatever.
A version of you in this universe or something like that, I think is what it is. I almost said Avatar, but I'm talking about another show now.
Yeah. And he's like, who said anything about living? And I was like, oh. And yeah, and the hand coming up, so I can't say it enough. This is the one movie where the director really put his all into it.
Mm-hmm.
That you can tell that this is that director's movie.
Yeah.
You can tell who directed this.
Yeah.
And of course, all the different callbacks of different horror movies that Raimi likes, but even his own of The Evil Dead,
mm-hmm.
of the hand coming out of the grave and stuff like that. And yeah, that was awesome. And then of course, with all the spirits, the ghosts and stuff like that, of taking control of all the different hands, that was a very unique looking.
Yeah, it was.
And her look when she finally just sees him. You see at that point, you're like, oh, okay. So she wasn't scared of regular Strange. She's scared of this one.
Yeah.
So that you had a really good fight with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it did a very well job of, as a climactic fight, I think it was very well done.
I agree. And I mean, it's fairly obvious to me that she curb stomps if America doesn't interfere when she does. But yeah, I thought it was a really well done fight too. The spirits, man, it was very creepy for me. But then, like, you know, you've got Zombie Strange, like half his face is tore off, and
Yeah.
but he still has the same mannerisms as Doctor
The same
Strange.
voice and everything talking. I'm looking, I'm like, oh, that voice doesn't fit the face, but
I appreciated it. That was something I didn't expect. Again, the things they needed to nail, they did, because we got the Wanda versus Strange fight. She destroys him, you know, and so for them to do something different in the end was really, really good for me.
And so I didn't really know a whole lot about America Chavez whatsoever going into this and stuff. And I felt like through most of the movie, I didn't think she really played that big of a part.
No.
I felt like for a new character, she's a pretty well throwaway character. Mm-hmm. She would be almost like what you would expect out of like Black Widow in Captain America and Hawkeye in Thor.
Yeah.
You're thinking of just a small little kind of side character who will later have a introduction
to
the rest of it. That's what her character felt like at the beginning. But she was in every scene.
Yeah.
Though at the very end of it, the whole entire way of how she basically wins the fight, I think it was the way that it needed, because it's not your standard style fight.
Yeah, she can't overpower Wanda.
No, so she outsmarts her basically.
Exactly. She uses what she wants against her.
Yeah.
She gives her exactly what she wants.
Yeah.
She gives her boys, and her boy sees Wanda for what she was. Yeah, I agree. I thought, I mean, it's obvious very early on, like, what that kind of power can do. But I was worried it was just going to be her defenseless the whole movie. But she comes into her own at the end. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, I was like, pretty much up until that point, I thought she was I was like, okay, she's kind of she's just like your answer to be able to go into different multiverses.
For sure.
That's the only reason why she's in this movie. Yeah. She doesn't serve any other purpose other than that. And outside of that, she's just running for her life, basically.
Yeah. But now, you recognize the importance of a character like that. We're talking about a young Avengers potentially in the future. This is going to be somebody you want on your team. Am I kind of nervous that she'll be used for, like, I want her to be her own character, not just her power.
Yeah.
Because they could have a situation, later on, 3 years down the road, we can't beat Doctor Doom. What do we do? Here, let me jump to this other universe. Let me go grab blank. Stuff like that is such a cop-out to me.
Yeah.
But hopefully they don't go down that route, but who knows?
Yeah, so that was and of course, so now we into the very okay, first before we talk about that one the first scene, let's talk about the second post-credit scene.
That was so annoying.
Okay.
That annoyed me.
Okay, so here's the thing. If you are taking it into consideration for a Marvel fan, yes, that is a horrible way to end the movie. Mm-hmm. But if you're looking at it from a movie standpoint, it's pretty awesome. I enjoyed that little bit of fan service.
Yeah.
For me, because he has had Bruce Campbell's character, who we saw early in the movie, being the hot dog sell or the pizza roll.
I told Rachel, and I was like, I can't think of who that is.
He was at the Comic-Con this last year.
Yeah.
He got his start with Sam Raimi in The Evil Dead.
Yep.
And he became very popular as Ash in those. And it has since become a central theme for Raimi to include him as just a small cameo.
Yeah.
And he was in all 3 Spider-Man movies, playing a different character every time. And so when you saw him in this one, I was like, oh, okay, I like that. And just having that as the very end scene like that, because in Evil Dead 2, you had a very same style of him being attacked by his own hand.
Yeah.
So it was a very kind of a callback to that. But having that last scene is where that stops. It was nice for me as someone who likes movies and stuff. But as for an MCU person, no, that was a horrible way to end end out your movie. Because, yeah, everyone has talked about how they hate that last scene.
I don't think they hated it because of the scene. I think it's just the expectation of Endgame's been out, 2 years, 3 years,
Yeah.
something like that now. There's no direction on what the next villain is. There are rumors, there are theories. Is it Doctor Doom? Is it Galacticus? Either one.
Kang.
It could be Kane. I don't think either or any of them are wrong, but there's just not a direction in place. Because this goes back to what we were saying earlier. They're tying up a lot of these people. We're gonna get the finale, or in my opinion, we're gonna get the finale of Chris Hemsworth's Thor in the 4th movie. We got a tie-up, in my opinion, of Doctor Strange's old character. How he used to play, and in this first post-credits that we're about to get into, we have that. Tom Holland, we get the closure with the other 2 Spider-Mans and him realizing what it takes to actually be a superhero. I think they're closing all these doors first before they go into the future. But I think it's just people want to know what's next, and maybe Marvel doesn't know. I'm sure they do, but
they have. I'm assuming they have to have an idea of where they're going, because otherwise they're leaving a lot of inroads that might not ever come. And that being said, there is one thing that I really hated about this movie, and that was where Doctor Strange 1 ended. The end credit scene was talking about Mordo being that he was going to basically there's too many sorcerers and stuff like that. Yeah. That he's going to become a new villain. That we were all expecting he was going to be the villain for this one, and you kind of saw him a little bit in the trailers and stuff like that. But then seeing in this movie, we don't even see that character of Earth 616, Mordo, in this movie whatsoever.
Right.
And it's just kind of hinted at as like, my Earth's Mordo hates me, and he's trying to stop me and stuff. And that I was like, that's all we got. I mean, all right, that was kind of a letdown for a end credit scene that never went anywhere. Yeah.
There's not too many misses they do with stuff like that, but I agree. I think that was one of them for sure. You already feel it with how things ended with the movie versus him versus Christine, but the very first post credits we get definitely seals it. Yeah, in my opinion. Clea, yep. He's walking down the street and he's vibing, he's enjoying his life. Suddenly, this lady appears and she's got a purple blade, and she's like, I need you to come help me, basically. He's suited up, and they go into the dark dimension. That's probably not instantly, but, that's Mrs. Doctor Strange.
It is. I mean, that is going to be... and that being said, I was like, okay, so that pretty much, like you said, that sealed the deal of him, like, replacing his watch, the face and stuff like that. Yes. For once, he actually looks happy, which was a revolving thing behind this movie. Exactly. It's like, are you happy? He finally looks happy, just to have somebody else come in.
Yeah, for real.
And it's like, oh, yeah, we need your help. And, of course, of all places to go back to is... the dark dimension. Of all places, that's like probably the last place he really wants to go to. And probably the last thing he wants to do is start crossing dimensions again. As for, I know a little bit about Clea. I don't know where they're going to try to go with this. I don't know where. It's not a 100% seal that we know where Doctor Strange is going to be going now. I mean, I guess we didn't really know about it after the end of the first one either, but...
In the first one, I hated the portrayal of Dormammu.
I hated it.
It was horrible. I'm hoping we get a better...
Hopefully so.
Because I'm assuming we're going to get a third Strange movie at some point. So I'm hoping we get a retcon of that of sorts. What are your thoughts on just the future of Strange and of Wanda? Because I personally, the mountain didn't kill her.
And of course, you saw the red go out and stuff. And so every other time that that's happened has meant she's done something.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it would be a bad idea if she did die. I think if they were to seal that, I think that would have been fine. It's not the greatest send out, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
I think they still have more room that they can do with that character.
Yeah.
But if they bring her back and they find out something else they can try to do with her, I would hopefully to stay within the villain anti-hero-esque.
Yeah.
I don't think she needs to go back to as a hero.
No, and I don't think she can.
No, I don't think they would accept her for that.
I think.
I mean, she did. How much murder did she do?
A lot.
Yeah, and especially, and so that being said, the whole entire. So you had the entire Illuminati, except for Mordo, on what is it, Earth 818?
Yeah.
Are all dead. So I'm wondering to see if that's going to make a toll into the future as well. If either Mordo in that universe is going to basically take all control, or if the other heroes are going to try to get justice or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that would be an interesting take on to do something with.
I think that would be a sick way to do a... You could do a style... Yeah, you could absolutely do a style of movie where variants from another universe, they come looking for justice. They want Wanda. Well, hey, we don't know where Wanda is, or whatever. Maybe that's how they do a younger Avengers battle. And that's good. I hadn't thought about that.
And see, that I've also heard that would be one way of doing a Secret Wars.
Yeah.
Because of there being a clash. That, I mean, you're talking about, so Captain Britain, Reed Richards being the most intelligent man in the entire Marvel universe.
Mm-hmm.
Professor X, one of the most powerful mutants. I mean, all dead in that one universe.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't see that being just a throwaway thing. There's going to be, I feel like there should be some repercussions with that going forward, where I feel like that might be a good, and of course that's what they kept talking about, how Doctor Strange was one who destroyed universes.
Yeah.
And of course they already talked about there's being a convergence and stuff like that, is when Clea picked him up. So I was wondering where that's going to.
Yeah, it certainly could. This is just my personal opinion. If they're going to go down that kind of route, they need to do it pretty quickly. While I don't mind it, and I know you don't mind it, I think just a basic general fan, the multiverse idea is just something that isn't real popular to go down, just because people can get confused with it. I had personally, until you brought that up, and it makes complete sense, I kind of thought we had locked the door on the multiverse at this point, just because Wanda destroys all the Darkholds in every single universe. Mm-hmm. Yes, he still had the power of America, and assuming every other America that's out there, but I kind of thought they were gonna. This was the door shut on the multiverse idea. But if that's the way they want to go, I'm here for it. Just as long as we get the proper development, But at this point, like, who is going to be... I just don't know who the cast is. I don't see Strange being a central character.
I feel like Strange So, they made a... what is it? Was it Infinity War? That one of the Thanos' minion was the Four. I can't remember which one it was. Made a comment, I think, to Strange about being we must be great with kids.
Yeah.
And stuff, and I know somebody was talking about between No Way Home of Spider-Man and of course with America. Mm-hmm. In this one. So I have a feeling if they're trying to go for a Young Avengers, I feel like he might be a very good mentor style of just someone kind of...
He's going to replace Tony, basically. In that role. Yeah.
But I don't know if he's going to be a forefront of it. I feel like he would be more of a back, just kind of leading them and guiding them. Because we did see he matured a lot in this movie.
That's true.
He pretty much was the early Tony Stark of Iron Man 1.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't care. He made a smart comment every single time he could. So I feel like he took more responsibility by the end of it. And the way that he has led two young people, I feel like that might be where they're trying to lead him. Because he was entered later on. I don't think they're going to be phasing him out yet. I feel like that because they haven't really done a lot. Doctor Strange hasn't done much other than, honestly, his movie.
Yeah, I feel the same way with Tom Holland and how they kind of left his movie, but the same way with Elizabeth Olsen. And based on the comments that Cumberbatch made, where he said, you might not see me for a while. Like, I think they kind of left these people open-ended if they want to come back or not. Elizabeth Olsen went on record and says, every time I do an appearance, I do a new contract. So they could have had, if she doesn't want to come back, and then, again, another report comes out where she says, yeah, I've been kind of frustrated because I've lost out on certain roles because of my commitment to the MCU. So I think hers was kind of left open-ended. I still think she is the key to everyone remembering who Peter Parker is at some point in the future. Yep. That's my prediction. Same thing with Stephen Strange. We could rest knowing, like, okay, he's off saving. He's fine with who he is. He's accepted that. He's found a new potential love interest, and he's going to be just out in the multiverse doing his thing. I agree. We're going to see him again. Yeah. And I think it. But I don't think it's a forefront either. Same thing with Tom Holland. If Tom Holland chooses not to come back, and I would think he's the choice to be the new leader of a Young Avengers team, but if he decided not to come back, every character kind of got their closure in some way or another. So, and I think that's what this year was based on, tying up everyone's loose ends. So going forward, like, who knows what's going to happen? I couldn't even tell you right now, like, who would even be on a Young Avengers team? Kate Bishop?
Assuming probably Kate Bishop. I would assume Spider-Man. America.
If it's not Tom, give us Miles.
I am surprised it's taken this long for us to ever get Miles.
Yeah.
I mean, they've already made the comment that Miles does exist in the MCU.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that we haven't seen him yet.
Okay, so let's assume Tom is going to be the leader. Okay, we have Tom, we've got Kate Bishop, we've got, I guess, America.
America would definitely be in there.
I'm going to throw out Miles Morales. We would still need two more. She-Hulk, maybe? Or is she strictly a spinoff character? We don't know. So, I don't see Jane Foster.
I don't know.
Coming and being part of this younger iteration of characters. I don't see it happening.
And see, I know, of course, you have the whole entire idea of Wanda's boys. Yeah. Of Wiccan and Speed.
Yeah.
I know people were talking about that they would be part of the Young Avengers as well. Mm-hmm. And, of course, I mean, they're still so far out. I don't know. I mean, we saw a little bit in WandaVision of them starting to get powers. So, I mean, they might, but once again, I don't feel them being a main stars.
Yeah, it's just tough to say. And there's not a whole lot of movies that are really booked right now. There's a lot of Marvel titles that haven't been released.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? I am worried about the young cast and just, how do you establish new characters when you've got these icons that you're leaving behind? That's going to be the main key for Marvel going forward.
It is going to be, because everyone, I mean, so MCU has done a really good job of bringing people who are characters who are not popular. of even going back to the original Iron Man. Iron Man was not that big of a character.
No.
Before the MCU, Iron Man was probably a B to C list character.
Mm-hmm.
He was not very popular.
Right.
He was not anywhere near what he is currently.
Right.
He was never considered like the leader style.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they brought him. Of course, we were talking your son, Moon Knight. I mean, I love Moon Knight. I love the character of him. So I was happy to see that. But, I mean, he's now, Moon Knight has been brought to the forefront. People are starting to really enjoy Moon Knight.
Yeah, that's the thing for me. Are spin-off shows on Disney Plus, are they going to be able to be brought to an MCU movie? You know, or are they going to keep them separate? Because we're kind of talking about these new characters that we want. I could see Loki coming back. I could see Moon Knight. Loki and Moon Knight interacting would be hilarious. With Khonshu, I could see a She-Hulk. I could see. I mean, you know, are we gonna get an Ironheart at some point? I imagine so.
I would assume so.
You know, that's my thing. I don't know if these characters that are spinoffs are gonna be, you know, because the DC universe, they were so against that. We never got Stephen Amell or Grant Gustin.
No, not until we had the Crisis.
No, I mean they weren't in a movie.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
they weren't in the movie, but we never had any kind of crossover. They were two totally separate wise, and of course I enjoyed the CW. I'm more of a DC fan anyway. I do enjoy Marvel, but I've always been lean towards DC. So I enjoyed the CW series and stuff. But when they did the thing of the Crisis-wise, and they brought in all the different things, that was like the first real feel of bringing all these different things, pretty much that Marvel has started doing with Spider-Man, and of course this one, bringing all their different things underneath one roof.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they know what they're doing. Kevin had actually said recently that they were going to do a writer's camp very soon, and they were going to plan out the next 10 years. You know, so...
Which is shocking is... so, planning out the next 10 years, I'm wondering how far ahead are they at right now? Because planning out the next 10 years, that's not... How close are you at that?
I would guess... Because they just wrapped Guardians 3. And that's another one that I think that's their final appearance. You know, so do they have enough content for the next 2 years, 3 years? Probably. 5 years? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. You know, if I had to guess on a character that'll be heavily pushed, I do think Morgan Stark is going to be somebody. Because they're going to have some familiarity, and this last name is Stark, you know, that'll probably help. But it almost feels to me like, you know, Tom Holland's kind of the key to this, you know, and we'll see what happens. Because I feel confident now we're not getting a Tom Holland, Tom Hardy movie.
Probably not.
I think it's much more likely we get Tom Hardy and Andrew Garfield.
Because I know there has been talks about getting that third movie for him.
And I would have preferred Tom, but I'm not going to disagree with that. You know, so the future is very interesting for the MCU. Absolutely.
Yeah. We're not at this point. We don't know what we're building to.
Yeah, we don't. You know, and maybe Thor 4 is that first inkling. Maybe we get...
Because I know they have been talking to do more of like a cosmic range. Because that's what we've been kind of starting to lean towards. Is more cosmic characters. So I would feel like, if anything, Thor would be your introduction.
I'll go ahead and... I mean, this is my personal prediction. Post-credit of Thor 4, we're going to see Galactus. I think it's him. As bad as I want a awesome Doctor Doom, I think, like you said, it's going to be a cosmic realm, and I think it'll be him.
Doctor Doom, I would love. I mean, I really want to see that. But given the fact of how far we are out on Fantastic Four,
Yeah.
I don't see them building now to have to then finally pay off this debt
Yeah.
7 years in advance, basically.
Basically.
Because I can't imagine he would be the big final at the end of Fantastic Four if you're trying to build him, that you would introduce the Fantastic Four and then have like the in-game style right after that.
Yeah.
It would
that's
have
true.
to. It would have to have at least a little bit of build-up.
Yeah, it is true.
So that's the only reason I don't see. I think that might be maybe a future. But even if we were just to get a Galactus, maybe even a more smaller style sense, maybe not a Thanos major event. If we can get just like a little bit smaller filler
Mm-hmm.
to fill in that time frame to then get to a Doctor Doom, I think would be perfect option.
Yeah, I agree. For sure. We should do a prediction episode sometime.
There's a lot of ways you can go.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be down to do that too. But overall, good movie.
I enjoyed it, yes.
I enjoyed it as well. Good stuff.
And next movie, I don't know what we're going to be doing. It probably sounds like we might be doing recaps on the Jurassic Park movies.
Yeah, I think so, because Jurassic World Dominion comes out June 10th, and we're
Less than a month away.
three weeks out.
Yeah, so
So you could do we could do 1 week on 1 through 3, and then week 2 on the other 2, and then we can lean into Dominion. But yeah, it's whatever you want to do.
sounds good to me.
Cool.
All right, let's chit chat movies.
I gotta go get groceries.
All right, see you, Matt.